a few years ago, dancing in the rain caused a crisis. So we had to stop that. So like there's little things that over the years we've had to stop, and being able to do them now, it's the best feeling. It really is. There's really no limitations to what she can do.
Hello, my friends. I'm so happy to be with you today. My name is Katie Taylor. I am a certified child life specialist, and I'm so honored, as always, to be able to bring you this amazing podcast with conversations with parents who have navigated the complex and exhausting field of pediatric healthcare with their child. We've had the opportunity to interview parents whose children have sickle cell, and I couldn't be more thrilled to bring you Maite's story during this September, which is Sickle Cell Disease Awareness Month. According to the CDC, 1 in 350 Black newborns born in America have sickle cell disease. Back in the 1970s, 30% of people with sickle cell died from infections, and because of awareness and research, that number is under 3%, but it's still too many. I want to thank Maite so much for sharing so much of her personal story, her perspective, her lens as a mom, as an immigrant, as a social worker, as the mother of a daughter who has gone through a bone marrow transplant. And she is also the type of woman who tried to find a resource for her child, couldn't find it, so she made it herself and is now sharing it with others. We will talk about her book, Just Like the Moon, at the end of this episode, but it is now available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, wherever you find your books. It's written in both English and Spanish and is designed for kids who have sickle cell, but is an amazing book, resource, and teaching opportunity for helping siblings, loved ones, neighbors, and friends understand what it's like to live with sickle cell as a kid. If you have a friend who has shared this episode with you today, know that they want you to feel seen, heard, and supported.
I have a special thank you just for you, our podcast listener. Right now, you can get free access to our most popular course and masterclass, How to Prepare, Support, and Respond to Your Child During Shots, Blood Draws, and Vaccines. You can also get access to how to use comfort positioning in pediatrics. These courses usually sell together for over $250, but we're giving it away to you for free. All you have to do is leave a written review for this podcast, Child Life on Call, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Give us a quick screenshot of your submitted review to podcast@childlifeoncall.com. Once we get your email, we'll send you the course completely for free. There are no strings attached, just our way of saying thank you for supporting the show and helping more parents find our podcast. Send us a screenshot of your review to podcast@childlifeoncall.com. That's podcast@childlifeoncall.com. Can't wait to get you free access to this course.
Hey everyone, it's Katie. We've started running ads through Libsyn to support this show. These are called programmatic ads. We do not pick each brand, but we can block categories that don't align with our values. Your support means the world, and this helps us continue creating great content, pay some bills, and hopefully upgrade our gear in the future. Thanks so much for being such a loyal listener, and I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, I'm Maite. I am 31 years young.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Your skin is glowing, 31 years old. You're
that's
wonderful.
thanks to all the steps to my skincare routine.
I'm going to need that after this.
31 years young, mom of 2, wife of 1, social worker, teacher, sister, daughter. I play all of the roles. We live in Long Island, New York, and that's a bit of us. Our daughter Alessia, she is turning 7, and by the time
Tomorrow
it will be 7. Yes. So
happy birthday.
7. She was diagnosed at birth with sickle cell anemia, and it truly rocked our worlds. And it just wasn't. I don't think anybody has a baby expecting that anything like this is gonna be thrown at them, but it was a curveball. We definitely weren't expecting it. But even though it's been a really rough journey over the past 7 years, it's been a journey of growth. I can imagine life being different than what it's been. I can imagine life without the pain. But it wouldn't be who we are today if all of that would not have happened. The appreciation that we have for life, for the little things, the really small things would not be here. And that has been a part of this journey that, although hard and very difficult, has been beautiful. Mm-hmm. And it's in its own way. But yes, Alessia was diagnosed at birth, and it really came as a shock to us. I had heard a lot about sickle cell disease, but my husband had not. I knew I was a carrier, but he didn't know he was. And when I got pregnant, I was having a lot of anxiety. Working in the field that I do, I see all of these things as a social worker. I see a lot of things go wrong. So that was always in the back of my head. Like, something can always happen at some point in time. So when they talked to us about doing genetic testing at 6 months pregnant, I was like, you know what? Let's not. It's not going to change anything. Let's continue as if nothing is happening, and let me enjoy the pregnancy as much as I can. When Alessia was born, she's diagnosed. My husband then goes to get testing for a diagnosis, and it comes out positive. And we're like, well, that's wrong. Go do it again. He did it twice. And then on the second time, we're like, well, if she has it and then you have it, then that means like it is positive. But I think one of the big misconceptions that we had and that had been drilled into our heads, it's that people that are fair-skinned do not carry the sickle cell trait. In doing a lot of research afterwards, we realized that that's not true.
Yeah.
Knowing that bit of information would have changed a lot for us. Alessia started her first round of medications at 6 weeks old. That was really hard. Before I had my kid, I was the mom that, everything's going to be organic. No Tylenol, no ibuprofen. Everything was going to be, I was on a health kick. I'm still on a health kick, but it has changed a lot. And I remember sitting with Alessia's doctor and just talking to her and like, this is a lot for me because I'm giving medication to my 6-week-old. She looks completely fine. You keep telling me that there's something in her blood, but I don't see it.
There's like that disconnect because it's invisible. It's on the inside.
It is. And it took a long conversation. And you know what? I was like, okay, let's start this. And she took penicillin and folic acid starting at 6 weeks old. And she took her last dosage of folic acid and penicillin back in August last year when she turned 6. So every day of her life until she turned 6, she took that medication. And when she last took that dose of penicillin, we're like, this is it. And she's like, what? Like this, what do you mean? I'm like, no, this is it. And it was one of those milestones that you are never like, it's a cute milestone. It's like, wow, we're here. And we were just like, how has it been 6 years?
Yeah.
This is crazy. But I digress a lot. Sorry.
No, I'm so curious because a 6-year-long journey of getting a child to take a medicine, was it always easy? Was she always willing to take it? Or what kind of boundaries or rituals did you have around that?
At 6 weeks old, there wasn't a lot that she could do. And this was her normal. So people, whenever friends came to the house and they saw us giving medicine, they always said, oh my God, she takes them so well. Well, yeah, this is
her every day.
This is all she knows. So she's always taken the 3 medications that she took on a regular basis well. And I remember there was a time when she was like 6 months old where she started to fight with the syringe and she didn't want it. So I started putting it in the bottle. Mm-hmm. And I would give her a little bit of formula or breast milk with the medicine and then give her the rest of whatever she was drinking that day. And she never fought it after that. Like, we always found a way around it. we didn't want her to associate with the medication with something uncomfortable. We wanted it to be as seamless as possible because, again, this is something that she's going to have to do for a while.
Yeah.
So the ritual, there was no ritual. It was just, it's time for your medicine. She's like, okay. And sometimes if we were really busy, especially me, I would forget some days, and it would be like 10 in the morning. She's like, hey, you haven't given me my medicine.
She reminded you.
Yeah. Yes. Like
I love that.
At least once a week.
Yeah.
She would remind me. And at night it was easier because it was right after dinner. You take your medicine and brush your teeth and let's watch a movie, read a book, or go to bed.
Yeah. When do you think the moment was that you truly saw that she had sickle cell? Because you were told at 6 months, and you really saw something's, she needs this medication, or my daughter has sickle cell, that realization moment.
So Alessia went into her first pain crisis at 6 months old.
Okay.
And it was textbook sickle cell disease, swollen hands, swollen feet, a lot of pain, a lot of uncomfortability. And we had just gone to Honduras to visit my husband's family so that they can meet her because they all live there. And we were also taking care of some legal stuff. And she decided she wasn't drinking milk throughout one of the nights. And that night was really hot. So she became dehydrated. And that triggered a crisis. We just saw the symptoms, and I'm like, this looks like what they've been telling us. And it was that. We realized while we were there that Honduras only has 2 pediatric hematologists and that we were in the wrong city. So when we realized what was going on, from within a couple of hours, we made the trip, 6-hour trip from one city to the other to get her to a doctor. And she confirmed it. She gave her all the needed medications for it. I called her doctor here in the United States, and she said, you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing. But if something escalates or she's not getting any relief from the pain, then you need to make a plan for admission. You need to make a plan to come back to the US. Something needs to change. The plan was, if the pain didn't get better over the course of that day where she started the medication, then we would have come back to the US. But that in itself was a lot too.
Yeah.
And thankfully it started getting better. My husband's family all works in the medical field in Honduras. They had the privilege of knowing doctors, of knowing people, and we were able to see this pediatric hematologist like after hours in her home. Wow. It was a very different experience, because the next day we did a follow-up in the hospital with her, and although we were escorted into this pediatric unit, we saw what was there. We saw everything, all the people waiting, the lack of resources, and it really opened our eyes to how blessed and how lucky we are, the privilege that we have of being in the US. As broken as the US health system may be, it's not what you get elsewhere. So the level of care that she received there was great. But I am 100% sure that it was great because my sister-in-law knew the doctor.
Yeah.
Because I know that's not the experience that, in talking to people and meeting people, I know that's not the experience that other individuals have, which is, it's saddening.
Yeah.
It kind of hit us that, wow, this is bad. This is not a walk in the park. It's not a headache. It's pain that makes you scream. Just blowing on your hand, your swollen hand, while it's in pain in the middle of a crisis, causes you to have more pain. So it was eye-opening.
Had you ever known anybody else with sickle cell before?
At that point, I didn't.
I have so many questions. So you're in Honduras. She has this crisis. You're able to get her the pain medication she needs. I assume that you come back to the US, and are you able to come up with a plan for the next time this happens, or what did they tell you about how to manage it all?
We were not able to come up with a plan because within 2 weeks she was back in the hospital with another crisis.
Oh,
And that happened every 2 weeks for the next 3 months until she started hydroxyurea.
okay.
And once she started hydroxyurea, which is a type of chemo medication that's used on children who have sickle cell or patients who have sickle cell, life changed. Like those 3 months really were the introduction to sickle cell. And they just like if we didn't know what we were dealing with, we sure learned during those 3 months. And the plan was we need to start her on hydroxyurea ASAP, but she couldn't start it until she was 9 months old.
Okay, I see. So you had this timeline that you had to abide by before she could get the medication.
Yeah.
How did you handle the stress of seeing your daughter in pain? What were some of the things that you could do?
The only thing at that point that I felt like I could do was advocate for her and educate myself. And the third thing was finding people who had lived with sickle cell to give me more insight about their experience. So that's what I started doing. Like while we were in the hospital and she was laying on me, that's all I did. Read about sickle cell. What does a hemoglobin of 7.0 mean? Because if you've never had to deal with hemoglobin, you don't know what the right level is. What do certain levels mean? What does having a vascular necrosis mean? What are all these terms associated with sickle cell that keep getting thrown around? And I don't have the energy to ask the doctor, or the doctor sometimes is rounding and doesn't have all the time in the world to answer my questions. But I may also forget them because they're telling me about all of these other medications and all of these other things that need to happen today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
That like it just goes over my head.
Yeah.
So a lot of my nights were spent doing research about the disease and how it affected children, how it affected adults, things that we could do to make it better. But it was also a lot of taking time to process what was going on. And my husband and I would look around the room and we're like, wow, like this is really happening. And this perfect baby of ours is in pain. And even though we can see that there's something wrong with her, like there is something very wrong, because why else would she have 2 IVs in her right now? Why else will she be screaming in pain? So it really did take some time for us to process this. And I think once she started hydroxyurea and the crisis stopped, we really were able to just take a step back and say, okay,
It's so true.
Yes. It's like while you're in the middle of this and you're surviving, you're not thinking straight.
No. Well, the three things you pointed out, I love and want to recognize, because I think a lot of parents can feel like they're not doing enough or they don't know what to do and they're just scrambling. But you said advocate, educate, and find community. And those are three things they're probably doing even in survival mode that they don't realize that they're doing. But you're right, when you're in that crisis mode for a pain crisis, there is no time to reflect and process and do any of the things, because you're taking care of your baby. You're making sure that she can get to the next day and get her out of pain as fast as possible.
Yeah. And with a baby, then it's like you get back home and you have to go back to that sleep schedule. You have to get back into your routine, and that takes a couple of days too. So, and by the time you get to establish a new routine, then here comes the next thing. and that's what kept happening to us for those couple of weeks. And we were really just surviving. We didn't know what to do. how to really talk about it, how to do anything else than take care of her. We were very active in our communities with our friends, church, work. All of that had to stop. Just because it just wasn't something that we could do at that point. Our lifestyle it had to change. And things change when you have a baby. But at that point, the level of change was deeper.
Yeah. When she started the new medication, did you see the pain crises happen as frequently, or when was her next one?
She went 3 years without any hospital admissions, without any crises. She would get a fever here and there from having a cold, and she would have to go into the hospital, ER, get a dose of antibiotics and fluids. And that was it. That happened every few months, maybe 6 months. Every 6 months that would happen. It was hard.
Yeah.
But she wasn't in pain.
Yeah.
It was really hard for her to go into those checkups every 3 months with her doctor, because every time we would go, they would draw blood, and she was understanding and associating, like going to the hospital means getting poked. And she hated it, every part of it. And what gave her solace at some point was when she realized that she could ask for toys. And if I make a cute face and ask for toys, the poke wasn't in vain.
So funny. I'm like starting to hear her little personality come out.
Oh yes. And she would just sit there and look at the nurse. She's like, this is gonna hurt, and I'm gonna kick you, but I need you to give me a toy afterwards. That's my reward. I'm like, what?
That's so funny. So if her next pain crisis was around 3 years, was it something that you expected? Was she already sick? Were your headlights on to maybe this could turn into something, or did it come out of the blue?
It didn't come out of the blue. It did, but it didn't. I think that there were signs leading up to the crisis where, like, maybe a month or two before, she just wasn't feeling well as she did. She seemed more tired, and that's something, like, during one of her checkups, we brought it up with the doctor, and she's like, let's increase the dosage. So we increased the dosage of hydroxyurea because, one, she could tolerate it, and it was time for it to be increased based on her height and weight. So everything was going well after they increased it, but then she started to not look as well. Something in children with sickle cell is that their eyes are very yellow. And for Alessia too, she always seemed very pale. So on some days she would seem paler than others. July of that year, we went to the beach. And she didn't go in the water because it was too cold, but she played around the water. And that caused a crisis. Then that was in the afternoon. We got home, put her to bed, and around 11:30, she started crying, say, "Hey, my legs hurt. Can I jump in bed with you?" Or like, "Sure, come in."
Yeah.
Within 30 minutes, she was screaming in pain. And I'm like, okay, this seems like a crisis. We called the on-call line at the hospital, and like, it sounds like a crisis. Bring her in. That was that. It was a simple trip to the beach. Nothing that we hadn't done before. It was just that for some reason the treatment wasn't working as it was before. And then that continued to happen over the course of that summer. And it happened maybe once a month. And it was different things, like she would play outside for 3 hours and didn't take a break.
Yeah.
And even though we tried to get her to take a break, she didn't want to. She's 4.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to take a break.
Yeah.
So we would keep her hydrated, we would give her water, but that would still send her into a crisis. So we started relearning her triggers that summer. And that's the point where one of her doctors just came and sat with us and talked to us about a bone marrow transplant. We had always talked about, all the leaps that are being made with gene therapy and that being an option in the future for her. But when we were on the 4th admission of the summer, this doctor came and sat down with me and he's like, I know you don't want to. And I know this is not the road you want to go down, but we think you need to look into this. Because you like to learn and you like to know all of your options, this is one of those options. Look into it and get back to us. So a bone marrow transplant can cure sickle cell disease. It's a blood disorder. Anything that's blood related can be cured with a bone marrow transplant, which again, I didn't know this before my child was diagnosed, and I learned on the way. So that was something in the back of our heads, the possibility of having another child, expanding our family, but also making sure that this child was a full match for Alessia if she were ever to need a transplant. So when that time came, we started looking into it. And I'm one of those people, if the doctor is telling me that I need to look into this, I'm going to look into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
No doctor is going to sit down with you and tell you this if they don't see the need for it.
Yeah.
So that's when we started looking into fertility treatments and pre-implantation genetics and that whole world.
A whole other world that you didn't know anything about and jumped into.
Nothing. And that journey was a whole thing on its own.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. It was hard, but we went through fertility treatment, did IVF. In one round, we were able to get a good amount of embryos, and we found one match among the 21 embryos. Wow. There was one match, and that's our baby Vida. And Vida was born about a year later, January of 2024. And her stem cells, yes. Oh, yes. Her stem cells were collected at birth, and that's what were used to transplant Alessia. A year after that, in January 2025.
Wow. So how old is she now?
How old is Vida? Vida is 1.5.
She's 1.5. Oh my gosh, I see your smile like talking about her.
Oh yes. She is the best. Literally the best. All the best things. Like all the best part of us are in Vida. She is a firecracker too. Vida does not stop and does not take no for an answer and likes to scratch, which is something we're working on.
So funny.
Yes. But yes, it was a journey during the time that we were doing fertility treatment and we were doing IVF and I was pregnant, and all of this time Alessia kept going into the hospital a good number of times with crises. One of them, was bad, and it left her without some level of mobility in her legs for a couple of weeks. And, it was just, it's hard to see a child-sized walker. Yeah. It's you're used to seeing the big walkers for adults, but when you bring home a teeny walker, that's a big adjustment. As things were starting to progress with her, we made the decision to switch jobs. I started working from home, and my husband started working a job that provided better health benefits. So we started to isolate more because we realized that every time she was around someone that had a mild cough, she would end up in the hospital with pneumonia. And that progressed from a mild cold. You know, our friend has a cold that they caught at school. He's doing great. But to Alessia, that turns into a whole episode. And the pneumonia then causes this. And then being in the hospital, she may catch this. So it always, like the simple things always became very big things. So we started to isolate more. She started wearing masks around other kids. And we started homeschooling. And it was a lot of adjustments at once. That as each one of them happened, it was just, like, this isn't great, this isn't good, but it's what's needed right now. And the hope was always getting to transplant. And when we were able to get to that point of transplant, I think, like, my husband and I were terrified, but it was also, like, wow, we are here. This always seemed so distant, but we are here. It took a long time to get here. It took a lot of effort and work and sacrifices to get here, but we made it.
Wow.
And even though that process was not fun, it wasn't half as bad as everything else that we had been through.
Can you walk us through a little bit about what the bone marrow transplant process was like for you all?
Yes. So if in our case, our hospital didn't have pediatric bone marrow transplants team. They didn't do the bone marrow transplants in pediatric patients. So we had to look for a hospital that did. Luckily, we live close to New York City, and there's about 4 transplant centers. So we shopped around. We found the best team at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and we just fell in love with their transplant doctors, the transplant team. It was a no-brainer. We met with them before we met with anybody else, and we still met with all the other transplant teams in the different hospitals, but we just knew. My husband and I are like, yeah, we're gonna keep doing this, but that's where we'll end up.
Can I ask you a quick question? What set that team apart for you all?
Compassion. The level of compassion that the transplant team doctor, that Dr. Cancio, the level of compassion that she showed to us, the just sitting down with us for 2 hours and answering every single question that we had and presenting more questions. She's like, you may also wonder about this and that. And I'm like, well, I wasn't wondering about that, but now that you mention it, yes, I'm wondering. So tell me more. So just the fact that they had an answer to everything that I wanted to ask, it was a no-brainer. It was like there was a connection there. And as I've gotten to know the team better and the doctor and nurses, child life specialists, everybody on that team, like it's a no-brainer. It's like you just know, and everybody that I've talked to that's gone through transplant at MSK, it's the same experience. They know what they're doing. There's no room for, what's the word?
I was thinking you might say error, but
that's a word. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
There's no room for error.
That feels really safe.
It does.
And secure. And that's above all what you want for your child.
Especially when we've come from all of this unknown. You go to the hospital for a cold or a fever and you end up admitted for a week and a half with spleen issues, pneumonia, and something else. When things have been so inconsistent for the past few years, that when there have been so many unknowns and you get to a place where there are knowns and where everybody just seems to have the answer to everything that you ask, it does make a difference. Knowing that there is a plan for the plan C.
Yeah.
Like there's a plan after plan C. If something were to not go right, like we have a protocol in place for that. And there's another 3 if that one doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like that gives you a level of security that as a parent, that nothing else gives you.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like as a parent, you're always trying to find the best team possible to treat your kid. And that's really what we found there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing.
How long was her total transplant process?
She was admitted for 5 weeks.
Okay.
So from the day that they placed her central line in until date of discharge, it was about 5 weeks. She engrafted at about week 4. She could have been discharged a couple of days after that. And I was like, no. It's like, I didn't feel it ready. I'm like, I don't think she's ready. But in reality, we just didn't feel ready to take her home with us.
Yeah.
Because there are still so many things going on after transplant that we just didn't feel like she was ready. But she was more than ready. And after going home, she thrived even more.
Yeah. Yeah.
She still has follow-up appointments, and she still had to go into the hospital a couple of times a week right after discharge. But just being outside of the hospital made a difference.
5 weeks is a long time to live in a hospital.
And it is.
On isolation.
An isolation. It was a long time.
What were some of the things that got both you and her through that time?
For Alessia, it was crafts. It was the music therapist.
Mm-hmm.
It was child life. Just wicked.
Yeah.
It was a lot of that. We read a lot of books. Alessia made a lot of good window friends too. So yes, so we were there for Valentine's Day. So we just sat at the window waving at people.
Window friends.
Yes, because there's only so much you can do in any tiny room. There's only so many movies you can watch.
Yeah.
So many books you can read. And I think like we brought more than enough activities to do. But there was a point in time where it was just like,
oh yeah.
Like I don't want to do another craft.
Did you allow yourself to have breaks, to have moments to get home?
Yes. And so it started at around week 3 where like it just wasn't working out. And Alessia told me, hey, you can take a walk. You know that. I was like, what?
That's so funny.
It's like, you can go take a walk and I'll stay here with like the nurse or someone. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do that because if you're telling me that, I probably need it. So yes, I went and took a walk, and at least once a week, my husband came and switched with me. I stayed in the hospital most of the time just because we wanted to minimize the risk of like catching a viral anything for the most part. And so my husband stayed with Vida. I stayed with Alessia, and we would switch at least once a week. It happened like 1 to 3 times a week for the most part. And I would spend the night with Vida. He would spend the night with Alessia. And at some point, Vida was just asking for her dad, or Alessia was just asking for me, and we would just switch back. They were staying at the Ronald McDonald House, which is a couple of blocks from the hospital. They used to come to the window and just wave to Alessia too, because Vida wasn't allowed in the unit. She didn't see anything but a big building, but Alessia was able to see her from afar and just wave at her. Easy, but it was manageable. I think it helped that we knew that this was what we were going into, like being ready for this, and we had a while to prepare for it.
Yeah. How did she handle the treatment itself? Did you find yourself having to advocate a lot? Did she handle it pretty well? Not in terms of like emotionally or mentally, but physically, did she do okay with it?
She did well. She did very well with it. She responded well to most things. I know that the day that we did immunotherapy, she had a fever, and the doctor came in and he's like, "Yep, we have to start this." I'm like, "Just tell me what this is," and they explained it to me, and I'm like, "Yep, just hang it."
Yeah.
And there was a day after like things started to progress and her levels started to drop. Her platelets were very low, and they just like she had 3 platelet transfusions during that day, and nothing seemed to bring them back up. And she had a 3-hour nosebleed that like just wouldn't stop, and she was freaking out. I was freaking out, and I'm like, like, tell me more.
Yeah.
What's going on? But for the most part, everything went smoothly.
Wow.
When she was past the worst of it and she started feeling better, and she's like, "Is this what they said that I was gonna feel? Like, this is the me feeling better?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think it is." It's like,
Yeah. She
well,
could feel a difference.
yeah. She's like, "Well, this wasn't that bad. This didn't hurt as much. Like,
Yeah.
you said it would hurt a lot. This didn't hurt."
Having gone through so much pain her whole life.
So just hearing that was really reassuring for us, because there was a lot of nervousness and anxiety going into this process. We wonder a million times whether or not we were doing the right thing, and like every time that we wondered and we had doubts, like she would say something or we would see something that, and even today, like we still see things and we're like, nope, that was like, it was the right decision. Like all of that is worth this. Like simple things as being able to play in Central Park in like 20-degree weather just because you can. That's
so she's officially cured, is
she's
doing well.
officially cured, officially sickle cell free. Her 99% of her cells, her blood cells, are Vida cells now, and it's really the best. It really is the best, that like to know this is a part of your life, but this pain, like you won't feel it anymore. You might feel other types of pain, but
And you will.
Yes, but that particular pain won't be a part of your life anymore. Just knowing that, and just Alessia, the other day she was able to dance in the rain. It was freezing cold outside, but she wanted to dance in the rain, and she could, because a few years ago, dancing in the rain caused a crisis. So we had to stop that. So like there's little things that over the years we've had to stop, and being able to do them now, it's just it's the best feeling. It really is. There's really no limitations to what she can do now.
I can see it in your face, like the joy that you feel from this. And I would love to know, what is your favorite part of being Vida and Alessia's mom?
Watching them grow up and seeing that even though they bicker and argue for 10 minutes straight, they can go right into hugging and cuddling on minute 11. Like it's really watching their bond grow. And it's, even though the decision to conceive Vida was a really difficult one for us, not because we didn't want to have another child, but just because what having another child meant at that point, it was hard. Making that decision was not, it just wasn't what we wanted to do initially. And but it was what needed to be done. And at that point in time, we just trusted the process and that we were making the right decision. And I think we did. I hope we did. Yeah. But I think that every day as I see them, like they end up sleeping in our bed in the middle of the night, and they just cuddle with each other. If Alessia's eating ice cream, she'll get ice cream for Vida, and they'll start just eating ice cream together. Alessia reads books to Vida, and like they still fight. For the day, but
of course,
like any siblings. But it's just seeing that their sibling relationship, it's a lot like my sibling relationships and like anybody else's relationships with their siblings is. It's really reassuring. So yes, my favorite part is just watching them grow up and thrive and love each other, fight each other, and being a mom is cool.
I love it. I would love to know some of the favorite resources or communities that you came across that you feel like really helped you and could help other families too.
Instagram everything. I think Sickle Cell 101 gave us a lot of insight into sickle cell everything. And I've been going back to Sickle Cell 101 and just browsing through information on their page for 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
Then last year we stumbled upon a support group, and it was the Spirit SCD support group. But it's a support group that is for people that are looking into transplant or gene therapy for sickle cell. And it's a lot of people that have gone through transplant themselves or that are looking into the process. And they just share their stories and they provide support to each other. And it really helps me to ask the right questions. The questions that I didn't know I needed to ask, they helped me with those.
Yeah.
I've just connected with a lot of people through that resource. There's a big community of people advocating for sickle cell and gene therapy to happen, or people living with sickle cell, and for the conversation to take place, because I do think that it's not a conversation that people often have. Yeah. And being able to see that has been really humbling, and how many people have found their way to transplant or gene therapy through making a connection with someone else has been really great. Another resource was Sickle Cell Consortium on Instagram too. They, again, have a lot of information and have a big community of collaborators that post and educate and just put resources out there. NMDP has a really great sickle cell program too for, again, people that are looking into transplant. And Alessia's doctor. Alessia's main hematologist. That lady, she's up there.
I love it.
She is really great. So
I'm sure she'd say the same thing about you all too.
I hope she does. we really love her. But yes, it was a journey of finding the right resources and connecting with the right people.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to spend with me today and share a little bit about your story, Alessia's story, Vita's story, your whole family. Anything else that I missed that you wanted to share, or what you want parents
to know? Oh my God, yes.
Tell me.
I wrote a book. Holy cow.
Tell me about your book, Bury the Lead.
I didn't forget about this. Yes, I wrote a book. It's called Just Like the Moon. And it's about a little girl who lives with sickle cell. And she just talks about the realities of living with sickle cell and how that journey has shaped her life, but also made it better in a lot of ways. And it's a book that, although it's not, Alessia is not the main character, it is based and inspired by her journey. So yes, it airs September 2nd, 2025. So
I cannot wait. We're getting so soon. Okay, September 2nd, you said?
Yes.
Okay, great. Perfect. We're gonna shout it from the rooftops, and I can't wait to get it.
Please do.
Yes.
I really just want it to be the resource that we never had. I am a really big reader, and that was one of the things that really got me through the last 6 years of my life. Reading. I love reading, and Alessia loves reading. Viva loves reading, and one of the things that I didn't find as we were browsing over the last few years for books on sickle cell was a book that was both educational and resourceful. I made it happen. So yeah.
You
we
saw a gap and you filled it.
yes, we needed it, and I think it presents you with the realities of the disease, but also gives you hope. And I think that that's something that in this community is often lost, the ability to just hope and dream of a better future. So yes, please order it.
Great.
It'll be on Amazon and
Okay.
other.
Do you have any social media pages where people can follow you?
Yes, Maite CRD 30 or Maite CRD without the 30.
Okay. Okay, I'll
Um,
find it.
yes, follow me, buy the book, watch me garden. It'll be fun.
I love it. Well, I'm
Yes.
so glad to know you now, Maite, and it was a pleasure to get to know you and learn.
As a parent, you want to be there for your child, especially when it comes to their health. But healthcare can be overwhelming and confusing. The good news is child life specialists are experts who help families navigate these challenges. But often our support is only in hospitals. So imagine if you had access to these valuable tools and resources all the time. You would be able to understand medical procedures, explain them to your child, and help them feel less anxious, which also makes you probably feel less anxious. So when your child visits the doctor, has surgery, or has a medical procedure, having the right information and support can make all the difference. You, the parent, can be prepared to answer their questions, calm their fears, and advocate for their needs. Child Life Specialist tools are ready to be in your hands right now through our app SupportSpot. All you have to do is go to the iOS or Android store, type in SupportSpot. We are giving all of our listeners on this podcast access to the app for just $19.99 for an entire year. You are going to have, I'm not kidding, 7 years worth of resources and support and information that we have been building at Child Life on Call at your fingertips. With these tools in your pocket, you can transform the way your family experiences medical care. Parents, you deserve to be informed and feel confident in your child's healthcare journey. And by having access to SupportSpot, you can ensure that your child feels supported and understood no matter what medical challenges come your way. Head to the link in the show notes or go to your app store, type in SupportSpot to download it today. For those of you who are joining us today, I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I am